I do know what the Democrats' presidential candidate said about those abuse photos. He blamed it on the American character. If we're going to have hate speech, when John Kerry says...
He didn't blame it on the American character.
No,
don't talk over each other.
He didn't.
What he said was the abuse at the prisons is a natural outgrowth of the American hubris in going into that war. That is as close to an attack on the American character, blaming this on the American character. As you can see, I assume those are the Al Franken fans who believe that this is an outgrowth of the American character. Look, I don't know what Rush Limbaugh said, but if we're going to have hate speech, I'd just as soon not have it be directed at Americans.
You know, okay,
Go ahead.
this is why I brought my bag.
Are you going to throw it at her?
No, I want to show you, because this is when we start talking about what's true and what isn't. And I'm sure that John Kerry didn't blame this on the American character, but I want to give you an example of how...
He said it was an outgrowth of the American hubris that took us into this
Was it the
war.
American? Well, it was an outgrowth of the hubris. There's no doubt about that, of this
American
administration.
hubris.
I mean, there's no doubt about that.
This is the exciting portion where we go through the footnotes of my book.
Well, while he's
We've all
taking...
been waiting.
No, I got it. I got it right here. This is how reliable Anne is. Let me just read something. This is an absolutely true story. Treason came out about a week before I had to finish my book, about 10 days. So I didn't have a chance to go through it the way I went through Slander. So I didn't go through your book, for my book. So a few weeks later, after my book was to bed, my wife and I went out to dinner early. I put Treason in my library with the books. And my wife and I are going out the back way.
She'll autograph it for you if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm sure. Good. I mean, good. I'll take, whatever. Anyway, so Franny's coming with me, and she says, I got to put on lipstick. So she goes back to get on lipstick, and I look in the bookshelf, I see Treason, I say, Andy, that was my assistant, I said, I'll bet you I can find a lie in the book before Franny gets her lipstick on. So I pull it out, and I just go like, boom, and I turned it to, I was going like this. And I turned it to, and I scanned the pages, and I see New York Times. And whenever I see New York Times, I know Anne's lied. So here it is. New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman sniffed that racial profiling was not, quote, civilized. He blamed 20 years of relentless attacks by Muslim extremists on, I quote, religious fundamentalists of any stripe. Let me say that sentence again. He blamed 20 years of relentless attacks by Muslim extremists on, I quote, and then in quotes, religious fundamentalists of any stripe. Well, Andy had been my researcher. He knew what to do. He nexused religious fundamentalists of any stripe. Boom. He got it. It actually highlights it. You've nexused. So this is what it was. It was a December 26th New York Times op-ed piece by Thomas Friedman called Naked Air. And in it, he suggests that they make people fly naked. He says, think about it. If everyone flew naked, not only would you never have to worry about the passenger next to you carrying box cutters or exploding shoes, but no religious fundamentalists of any stripe would ever be caught dead flying nude. But let me read the sentence again, Ann. So this is how reliable that it's Kerry blamed the American character for this.
Okay, you read the sentence, and I want to give her a chance.
He blamed 20 years of relentless attacks. He blamed 20 years of relentless attacks by Muslim extremists on, I quote, religious fundamentalists of any stripe.
Okay. You don't have a backpack, but...
No, I do have a watch, if you could keep an eye on it for these long, boring stories, because I would like equal time, and...
I am trying to give everybody equal time. Please go ahead.
this whole debate is going to be about Ann Coulter, I'm just not prepared on Ann Coulter. Liberals think that you can't paraphrase an article. You actually, conservative books would be nothing but an Encyclopedia Britannica of the entire droning, boring article. You have to attach them all. You can never paraphrase something. My paraphrase was absolutely accurate. Thomas Friedman is talking about how to keep the airline safe after 9/11, after 20 years of relentless attacks. Senator Norm Coleman.
Okay.
Oh, that polite decorum of the liberals. He is talking about how to respond to the relentless attacks by Muslims on American airlines, on American embassies, on Americans, on Italian cruise ships, and so on. And what his facetious proposal is, he says after an attack like 9/11, there are two solutions. We can either learn to live with much higher levels of risk, or we can be much more controlled as a society. On a side note, I have another solution. It's a little something I've worked up. I like to call it racial profiling. But his suggestion is that we fly naked, because two advantages to that. One is you'd catch the guys with the box cutters, and second, it would be a deterrent to religious fundamentalists of both stripes, or of all stripes. That is Muslim extremists. We really, I hate to shock liberals on this one, but the Amish extremists have been very quiet recently. The Mormon extremists have been very quiet recently. They're not the ones we need to be looking for at airports. This nation is under attack, and the refusal of the left to admit, after a dozen attacks on America and America's interests by men who have identical hair color, eye color, skin color. You could use one of those paint chips for the skin color. All speaking Arabic to one another. Half of them are named Muhammad. But liberals pretend we have no idea who we're looking for. But their testy George Bush didn't stop 9/11. But don't look for, Arabic men Muslim men speaking Arabic to one another, named Muhammad.
Undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than the citizen population of the United States. And the United States is unique in this experience. Every poll shows that, virtually every poll.
All right, someplace Ann got a shiver down her spine, and I'm getting an email soon asking her to come on and debate you. That was Geraldo on the Kelly File last night, taking Donald Trump to task over Trump's claim that violent criminals from Mexico and elsewhere are illegally flooding over the border into the U.S. Ann Coulter, who happens to be the author of Adios, America, the left's plan to turn our country into a third world hellhole, doesn't agree with Geraldo. So she is here to respond, and Geraldo is back as well. He's host of Geraldo Rivera Reports and a Fox News senior correspondent. So, Ann, let me just tee it up for those who have forgotten somehow with Mr. Trump's remarks that started it all.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Okay, go ahead.
If you want me to start, I feel
Ann.
the same. Okay, Dan.
Okay. First of all, I'm not hesitating. There's a 3-second delay here. I want to thank both of you for doing this. A big part of my book is that we won't even have the debate on this. I think the first most important point is these are not people who have a right to be here. So I don't care if there are 2 rapists. I don't care if there are 2 people coming in who are collecting welfare. Immigration is a government policy like any other, and it ought to be used to benefit the people already living here. That includes recent immigrants. There should not be any criminals coming in. It's bad enough having people come in who are accepting government, who need government assistance. To be bringing in people who are felons, can't we cross that off the list? Secondly, I asked your producer if we could run this during the program. I got here a little bit late, and that was just look at the Los Angeles County's most wanted list, whether it's the top 10 or the top 100. The idea that immigrants are committing crime at a lower rate than the native population is preposterous. preposterous. My complaint, as described in the book, and why this book became this book rather than just a few chapters, was that the government won't simply count and tell us. So whatever facts there are, it's always people looking at ancillary facts, things like a most wanted list. Why doesn't the government just count?
Go ahead, Geraldo.
Well, I think, first of all, her basic premise, the title of her book, Adios America, is an insulting insinuation that Latinos are somehow going to pervert and drag down and degrade the America we all know and love. This is an insult. It is an insult that is, I won't use terms like racism, because I don't believe that Anne is a racist. What she is a polemicist. She's written a screed, a diatribe here. She had a point she wanted to make, and she, in her very sharp and witty writing, has made it. Now, when I say that immigrants commit less crime than native-born, it's from surveys that I've done. For 2 books I've written on it, The Great Progression and His Panic. His Panic is appropriate especially for Anne, how Hispanics will lead America to a new era of prosperity. Oh, that's Great Progression. This one, Why Americans Fear Hispanics in the U.S. That's Anne. She fears Hispanics in the U.S.
This is great. It's like going to the library.
Crime is at record lows in Los Angeles and in New York, the cities that you would assume would be the most impacted by the huge Latino influx.
Okay,
even with a slight
let me let Anne respond to that. But
we're
first,
still at levels from the 1950s.
I want her to define polemicist.
That's exactly what I am. I do want to say I don't think you're a racist either, Geraldo, though I think you're going kind of close to the edge by insisting that Hispanics piggyback onto the black experience in America. The reason Americans are so concerned with racism, and should be concerned with racism, the reason we have civil rights laws, racial set-asides, affirmative action, is to make up for the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. By Democrats, I might add. It is not for people who just set foot in this country yesterday to piggyback on that very unique history in America and start claiming affirmative action. And yet that happens. And as I said, here it is. I mean, this is not exactly a rigorous study saying there are lots of immigrants in L.A. and New York and the crime rate went down. Well, yeah, that's because Giuliani, the prison building boom. It's a fact that only about 1/3 of California prisoners are white. So are you saying 2/3 of them are black?
Okay, go ahead. Let him
California has one of the smallest black populations in the country, only like 6%.
According to the Congressional Budget Office, these immigrants, the undocumented immigrants, contribute more in revenue to the United States pot than they take out in benefits. That's according to the Congressional Budget Office. According to the Social Security Administration, there is $100 billion paid by undocumented immigrants into Social Security with fake numbers for benefits they will never retrieve. That is their gift. That is their gift to us. They have remade entire neighborhoods, Passaic, Patterson. Go to Washington Heights. Unlike Anne, who researched the book from her computer, I've been to all these neighborhoods. I've been to the border. I've seen the immigrant vitality. We're all immigrants here. Anne's family, you may go back decades, but I think, wasn't there immigrants on your grandfather's side? I mean, we're all immigrants, each of us. The language that this American hellhole, this is the language used against the Irish in the 19th century, against the Italians in the early 20th century. This is inappropriate.
Just in case you were wondering, polemicist. Okay, here it is. A strong written or spoken attack against someone else's opinions, beliefs, practices, etc. That's right. She's right. She is that, and she admitted it. So I think we can end with that point of agreement in a very nice debate. I have to say they were right. Like, they were civil, and they sold a lot of books,
Geraldo said was false.
Everything Anne has written is.